Right, so I think I'm going to just start with the introduction so long, and the CVs and that before we kick into the meat of the information. So, firstly, can everybody hear me? Right, great stuff. Welcome everybody to our Askia webinar, and we're really excited to hear about this really great case study. It won an outstanding achievement in our supply chain digital transformation category. We have two speakers today, Gugulethu Mutunzi and Jean-Pierre. Gugulethu is the expediting manager at PepsiCo. She's a dynamic and results-oriented professional with a strong passion for supply chain and logistics. Her career spanned 11 years across many facets of the supply chain, where she actively contributed in enhancing operations, elevating customer service, and driving cost efficiencies to optimize inventory management. Her approach centers on adding value, whether as an individual or as part of a team. Throughout her journey, she has honed her analytical skills, her decision-making abilities, and gained valuable insights into project planning, management, and execution. In her career, she's had the privilege of closely collaborating with directors, executives, managers, supervisors, and warehouse teams to foster a comprehensive understanding of the supply chain and logistics from multiple perspectives. So she is eager to continue leveraging her extensive knowledge and experience to drive excellence in this dynamic field. So welcome, Gugu. Our co-guest speaker is Jean-Pierre from Forte. Welcome, Jean-Pierre. Jean-Pierre is an passionate advocate for change with a demonstrated history of working in the tech and supply chain industries. He's skilled in communication, team building, project management, change management, and innovation. Has a strong operations background with experience working on a global supply chain of oil from the Middle East, which has been transported to refineries in East Asia. He obtained a Bachelor of Commerce in Marketing Management from the University of South Africa, and he's worked in supply chain software implementation space, and currently within Forte Supply Chain Solutions, commercial communications lead, Jean-Pierre, taking responsibility for improving customers, sales team processes, and new market research. He is privileged to find himself, quote unquote, in a winning team that knows what it takes to get the job done and still having fun. That sounds really fantastic. So welcome, Jean-Pierre. And just to note that Forte are actually our main sponsors of the Askia Awards for 2024. And before I continue, I just want to reiterate that this is year 3 of the Askia Supply Chain Excellence Awards, and we're really excited about our next award cycle, which is 2024. If you haven't entered your winning supply chain entry, please do by the end of March, and we'll just pop the website address that you can go in and have a look. And we really like to showcase case studies like these that shows innovation and great value add to customers. Now, before we continue with today's webinar, I'd just like to ask Mike Johnson, who's one of our esteemed judges on the judging panel, just to give a brief comment on this entry and and just some insights. Mike, over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Liesl. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that the primary objectives of the Askia Awards is, first of all, to recognize excellence and innovation and good work in sort of all the various aspects of supply chain. So it could be the whole supply chain, or it could be portions of the supply chain, depending on sort of where the application is. Okay. Second objective is to communicate these things to the industry as a whole, and showcase what can and is being done. And then finally, to challenge organizations to look at their own supply chain. You know, if their competitor is doing something that's smart or clever or yielding sort of positive results, then they should be, maybe they should be looking at these kind of things themselves. Okay, that's the primary objectives for Askia, and I think over the years we're achieving that. I think in terms of this particular entry, or entries that we look at, the first is the nature of the industry that it's being applied to. In this case, you've got a convenience product, cool drinks and snack foods and things like that, which is very much a convenience product. So it requires intensive distribution. You need multiple locations where you can get it, be it the local garage or the local supermarket, even spaza shops and places like that. So you really got to saturate the market in order to compete effectively there. So and that from a distribution point of view presents lots of challenges. Pepsi obviously being a major corporation involved in multiple products and things like that. This presents quite a sizable challenge for them. They, as part of their strategy, have adopted the approach of outsourcing most of their distribution, which I think makes sense because they keep to the knitting, they keep what they're good at, and outsource to other people who are better at some of the other distribution requirements. But keeping that together is a major challenge when you're a national distributor of convenience products. And that's effectively what they've taken on here, to try and use today's technology by sort of managing that network more effectively. And with the technology today, you need real-time information, so you can both track what you're delivering and producing to your customer service, where, when customers are expecting their deliveries and placing orders and that kind of thing. So it's a very complicated or complex distribution system. The products themselves are not overly complicated, but the distribution network is. They have partnered with Flow in order to bring that together, and that's really what you're hearing about in the case study. I think the thing that impressed us about Flow is the flexibility and the attitude they brought to the operation. They weren't prescriptive to Pepsi at all, in the sense that they were telling Pepsi how they should run their business. They said, "Tell us how you run your business, and we'll try and build our system around that." And particularly when you, for example, the numbers that we're talking about here, there's 25 to 35 people within Pepsi that need to know where all their products and orders are at any particular time. They have 55 outsourced transporters, which is quite a sizable number of transporters, and one must remember that all of those people run their own operations the way they think they should run them. There's not necessarily any standardized systems or styles or anything like that. There's approximately 4,000 to 5,000 consignments going out per month. There are 1,500 SKUs that they're managing. And approximately sort of 500 customers. That's in the initial setup, which was the case study here. So there's some big numbers there, of product flying around from point of origin to point of consumption. And to bring all that together in a single system and to get external parties to come onto the system so that it worked for everybody, I think was a big challenge, in terms of customer service, they sort of got far better coordination between production, their customers, and distribution, and their outsourced partners. And their on-time and full deliveries moved from 70% to 90%. But the way they handled it and sort of how they got on, and they cooperated together, multiple parties. Training of all these different transport operators was done sort of on a one-on-one basis wherever they were based. And the whole thing was handled on a project management basis. So there were fairly tight deadlines, milestones. It was a very impressive entry, and
Great, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your input. We really appreciate that a lot. And I think that's a great introduction to Jean-Pierre and Guguletu. So without further ado, over to you guys and your presentation.
Afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. I was just having a lot of
Yes.
network issues. Okay, I'm glad. So my name is Guguletu Mthunzi, and I'm actually the expediting manager at PepsiCo, and I joined PepsiCo last year around about June as an expediting manager. So with me joining this, the company, we actually sat down with Henny, who was my previous boss, and we're discussing the whole Forte project and the whole flow and how it's going to work and affect our business, because we were having a lot of issues where we didn't know how many orders we have actually done for the month, and we didn't have a platform where actually our expediters can get the information and give it to our sales guys on how many loads have been delivered, where the truck is, to give it to the site so that the site can prepare the orders and then know which truck they should load first and which one they should just leave for later on. So we never really had any visibility of all the transaction that was going on within our business. So with Forte team coming to us and then introducing us to Flow, it gave us the platform where we actually now we're going to need even less expediters to actually now give all these updates. And it was also a way of us getting a real-time update where we now knew when are we expecting the truck, and then with mostly the booking customers, we knew that okay, this truck is going to be loaded what time and how long is it going to take him to actually get to the other customer for him to make it to his booking slot. And then actually, and the nice thing about it also is that we also knew, we now know actually that we actually now know that these loads are not going to make it, or which ones the customers are rejecting, because it's not just the expediter that's giving out the information, it's the person that's actually in charge of the load and the driver who's actually driving the truck, who's going to the platform and then is putting all their details onto the system and giving us a real-time updates on all the orders that are actually taking place and the orders that they actually that are allocated to them. So it was just it's a great platform. It does take a little bit of work to get it together, because now we have all these different transporters. As Mike said, that it's 55 transporters and they're doing quite a lot of loads. And so now it's getting all these 55 people to come into not one room physically, but getting them to be in this one platform where they can give us the data about everything that is happening on their loads, which is we're looking at like 1.5 loads, and it's a lot of loads. So it was a little bit of a ride, but we got there. Where the nice thing is that the transporters saw that it was a great opportunity for them to cut out the whole spreadsheet, cut out all the calls and everything that has been happening throughout, where there's an expediter, this one is calling them now, the salesperson is asking the expediter what is happening. Now the expediter can just go onto this platform, and then even the guys on site themselves can go to the platform and just go see when are they expecting the truck and what is the ETA and which load they can prepare first. So it's kind of a very system that actually just worked perfectly with us. And the nice thing also, we knew which loads now are being rejected with customers, so that we know that okay, that load we don't have to count it for our sales for the month. It's now moving to another month when the transporter is going to deliver that load. So it was a really great platform for us, and it solved most of our problems, and we saved on most of it, as Jean-Paul is going to discuss and show you guys on the savings that we actually made with this project. Thank you. I think, Jean-Paul, you can take over from there.
Thanks, Gugu. Yeah, so just as Mike has alluded to, the details of the project and the impact of the project was set out at managing 35 different stakeholders within the PepsiCo environment that needed to reach some sort of consensus between information. So people and in different departments needed to have a central place or a central source of truth that they needed to refer to, so that they can match up so that the system can match up reality with what's actually happening on the ground, or have that representation in a system that's centrally visible, match up with what's really happening out in the real world. And you can imagine for yourself what a challenge that must be, managing that amount of people and just the network effect of comms between 25 to 35 people. And then on top of that, you add the 55 different transporters. And then on top of that, you add 1,500 vehicles. That is a massive network that needs to reach consensus. Okay, so between 4,000 and 5,000 consignments, as Mike and Gugu have alluded to, representing 1,500 different SKUs, and then going to about 500 different customers of offloading points. Okay. So just a little bit background about Forte. So Forte as a business, we strive to improve and empower the supply chain by bridging the software gap. So that's in essence what we do. So we partner with best-in-breed software, supply chain software, and then implement it. Or in the case of Flow, we actually recognize that there wasn't or there wasn't this so we partner with best of breed softwares, or when there wasn't a best of breed software, we actually took it upon ourselves to develop this product, and that it culminated in what is Flow today. Okay. So Flow, in its essence, is a platform that tries and makes it's a platform as a service that seeks to create central visibility within the supply chain by connecting different data sources and transferring data from one place to another, where data where it's created to where it's consumed. So it's a platform that facilitates, and it's a platform that is multifaceted. Like Mike said, it is adapted to different business cases. We can easily adapt it to different business cases. But in its essence, it tries and creates this consensus that we talked about between what is happening out in the real world, and mirroring that in a digital place that's centrally available for all stakeholders to access.
Can you hear me? You're not sharing your slides. I don't know if you want to share your slides.
Apologies.
No problem.
Sorry, Teams Zoom is new to me. Where is the share button on this thing?
At the bottom. More at the bottom. There's three little. Let's have a look there. Oh, there at the bottom, next to participants, it says share screen.
Yeah, sorry. I think my Teams is causing my taskbar to pop up. There we go. Okay. That I can't share my screen. There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
If it's not the internet, it's you.
No problem.
The user. Okay. Yes. So just again, speaking to Flow as a platform as a service. So Flow seeks to take what is happening out in the real world, where different sources of data are involved, and then make that centrally visible and consumable to the people the stakeholders that need to consume and interact with that data. In the case of PepsiCo, there was a need for users also to go and add data to existing data, and we'll demonstrate that a little bit later. But it has this capability as well of being a source of data in itself. And then And then it also has the ability to create visibility. So what we do is we have flow analytics, which we then can do visualization and actual analytics so that there's actionable things that come out of that data. So it's not just about consuming or making the data consumable, but also making it available so that there can be concrete actions taken out of that data. So things like improving on-time delivery, really focusing the team's efforts on the things that are important, like Gugu said, things that are the exceptions or the snags. Flow really facilitates the focus on those specific things. And I guess it's the Pareto principle, where 20% of your business is responsible for 80% of your headaches when it comes to expedite. Okay, just a bit of a background on the footprint that PepsiCo is looking at. So there you can see that the different segments within PepsiCo has between 35,000, that's a total of 38,000 tons for this specific month or year that we're looking at. So that's an average of 38,000 tons a year going out to the different areas. And there you can see the heat map of where the different areas of business happen. So you can see it's like a massive national footprint, and it's moving consignments from the depots to those different locations, and it's different transporters at different times. So again, you could just imagine what a tamaleki this thing would be to get consensus of without a system. Okay, the area of focus for the project was very much between the distribution and the primary transporters within the PepsiCo environment, given that there's various legs within the PepsiCo supply chain. This project specifically focused in getting the transporters and the people involved in the distribution closer to each other. Okay, and within that segment of the supply chain at PepsiCo, we specifically wanted to use the expediters as the key mediator between the various stakeholders within the distribution. So between the primary transporters, the sales departments, as Gugu said, we can exactly see with Flow now, or do the recon of how many sales actually happened or how many consignments were executed on to the point where they can actually be counted as a sale for that month. Okay, and then also expediters giving feedback to planners in terms of what of the primary transporters will be available for them to include in the next phase of planning when they do their planning. Okay, like I said, this is just like I said, this is the model that we went from a point-to-point to a hub and spoke model using Flow in its higher, or in a more theoretical sense, where A, B, C, and D represents the expediters, and E to H represents the transporter. So expediter A would have to phone transporter E, F, G, H on a regular basis to get information, and then you'd have to pass it on to the sales department or pass it on to the planning department. Where Flow fits in is it became the hub between these different spokes and sources of information. Just to recap the numbers again, it was 35 to 40 different line haul transporters that were needing to be brought onto the system, with an average of 4,000 to 5,000 consignments between them. Okay, so when we set out on this project, one of the first things that we do as Forte when we approach a project is something called the process design. And in the process of doing the process design, we realized, it came out that PepsiCo primarily uses a SharePoint document to basically allocate the transporters via the planning department. And then that SharePoint document needed to be shared with the different transporters on a regular basis. However, we realized that the SharePoint management was not managed properly, and each planner would use a different version of the SharePoint, and it just became this malaise of different methods of working. So we needed to first establish that as, or draw a line in the sand, if I can put it that way, of standardizing the way that the planning department would hand over information to transporters. So what Gugu and the team have succeeded in doing up until this point is getting the planning department to work on that spreadsheet in a systematic way. And then we use that as our starting point for where Flow receives its initial information. And then what happens is the additional information that gets added by the different transporters gets added in different means and methods. And we'll get into the detail of that. But then that SharePoint becomes the central source of truth to kick off the process. And then Flow takes over when it's handed over to the expediting, that they can then refer back to the Flow with its augmented data points added on. Like Mike said, and I've reiterated multiple times, change management is definitely one of the biggest hurdles that we had to overcome on this project. It's 40 transporters that all have different methods of working and operating. They have preferred methods of communicating internally and both to external parties. But the key thing that we took away as well is in trying to overcome that change management was that we needed to be, instead of being prescriptive, we needed to be able to adapt to the way that they work. And that is reiterated with the fact that we gave them various options of feeding that data into the Flow platform. Okay, so the implementation of the Flow platform went as follows. So the security and the integrity of the data was critical because PepsiCo as a huge client with a huge impact or a huge footprint has this type of project can have a huge impact in the transition or the smooth running of their operations. And because of that, we decided that a few things that definitely needed to be in play was that they needed to be user-defined visibility, in that transporter A shouldn't be able to see things that are assigned to transporter B. There needs to be central visibility for all expediters to see all loads at all times, or it could be that they need to see only certain depots, and Flow as a platform definitely facilitates that. So we needed to establish who needs what access to the information. So Flow facilitates that in having user-defined roles that you can then set up, so that you don't have so that the user's experience on the platform itself is defined to what is their responsibility essentially. Then we needed tracking and tracing. So this was again with different data sources. We needed to see when those data sources were updated, so that the expediters and such can see exactly when last a consignment was updated with the relevant information. And then further through that, we built some business intelligence reports through the custom dashboards that we provided for PepsiCo, and that speaks to again the fact that we can then focus the expediting team's efforts to the exceptions. So managing the exceptions, the things that are late, the things that are important to them, the things that are going to have the most impact. So those custom dashboards then exactly tell them where they need to take that action. So from the data being fed into the Flow platform, to it being processed by the transporters, to then the expediters being given exact numbers of these consignments are overdue or late. These consignments haven't dispatched yet, get on them. So it's made the efficiency of the team a lot. It's increased the efficiency of the team by quite a lot. Okay, so this is just a screen grab of what the platform will or looks like on the PepsiCo end. So as you can see, it's a transactional grid that represents the individual consignments. And what is nice about it is the fact that it's customizable to the user. So the user can filter on the columns that are important to them. So a load number is of primary importance to expediter, that's what he'll follow up. Or if he has a specific client that he needs to focus on, he can filter on that client. The date ranges and stuff like that are customizable, so you can adjust your window that you want to look at, so that again you can just look at that exceptions. And then what Flow can also do is on analytics, you can, if you drill down, it will filter your grid to that view, to view only that section of the BI that you want to look at. Okay, so the consignments get synced from the PepsiCo SharePoint directly to the portal. And then this is a web-based portal that the different stakeholders will be able to log into if they choose to update on here. But the expediters have their individual logins, and this is where they'll then come fetch the relevant information for their consignments that they are responsible for. Okay. So a few things that needed to be managed through the Flow portal is the on-time delivery. So we wanted to reduce the human error. We wanted to create transparency between the planning department regarding consignments. And then we gave them a dashboard for reporting on the data gathering. And then one big selling point in overcoming change management again was the fact that there was no additional cost levied against the transporters for implementing the system. So Flow's client is PepsiCo, and that they then make available at no additional cost to the transporters to do the uploading. So if they chose to do the integration, there was a once-off implementation cost associated to that, but there was no month-to-month license cost or anything like that associated with having access to the Flow portal for the transporters. So then just an overview of then what this all looks like, everything, just to bring it all together. This is exactly how how the system is put together. So here you can see on the top level, sorry, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the top here, we have Flow as the platform itself. So this is what is available to the end users when they log in using so this is the actual platform as a service. And there you can see it's both the grid and also the BIs that make up the Flow visibility part of it. And then the Flow, what we refer to as the Flow Connect part, is then actually the central data lake that we then create through taking the different data sources, combining them, and then making them visible to the different stakeholders. So the different options that we gave the transporters to import their data. So the first thing was that we had the SharePoint, the PepsiCo SharePoint being the source of the consignment information that then gets loaded to the grid. What happens next is that those transporters then obviously receive the load information, and then they go and they actually execute on those consignments by doing the deliveries. And then within their space, they either operate on a TMS system, or they could update on a standard spreadsheet that we gave them. that they would then go and upload to a FTTP folder or go and drop in an FTP folder if that was if they didn't have a TMS that they want to integrate, or they can directly upload to the Flow portal. So that was the three options given to them, and that's where we were not very prescriptive on which one we would recommend to them. So we asked them which one would work best for them and which one would cause the least administrative burden on them. And some of the reasons why you would choose to integrate were things like to eradicate the duplication of effort, because if they're already operating, or their operators already updating things like location and loading status and stuff like that in their transport management system, they wouldn't necessarily want to go into another portal and duplicate that information. So that's why some of the transports would choose to integrate into their transport system directly into Flow. And then for the smaller guys that don't necessarily have a TMS, or the single transport, or the smaller guys that are owner operators that would do a delivery and then or have one truck do the delivery and then just update themselves. Those were the guys that would typically between 1 and 10 trucks would typically be the guys that would use the portal directly and not opt for integration from their TMS, because they wouldn't have a transport system necessarily, because it's easy enough for them to manage it on either Excel or just log into the portal and update it there. And then the breakdown of users that or transporters that actually update through the different means is as follows. So there is 14% of the transporters at PepsiCo use integration. 68% of them are actually logging in and have login credentials and have been trained on how to use the portal to update their load information. And then so 18% in total on the FTTP, with a caveat of 4% of the users actually emailing the Excel spreadsheet to a specific email address that then goes and collects that spreadsheet and sends it to Flow. So some of the project milestones. So the project kicked off in 2018. I don't need to reiterate on. To backtrack a bit, the project kicked off in 2018 with the introduction of Forte to PepsiCo, actually being facilitated and led by one of the primary transport, or the main primary transporters at PepsiCo, Arts Transport. And they actually introduced us when they saw the potential of Flow at PepsiCo as one of their biggest customers. They actually introduced us to PepsiCo in 2018, and that's where the project conversation started, and this need arose that the arts people were kept being phoned by the expediters and stuff like that on a regular basis, asking about information. And Arts already was a Datatim client of ours. And they said, but is there not a way of updating PepsiCo through our TMS system? And then when they saw the portal, that's when the introductions were made, and the project actually kicked off in 2018. Some hurdles that we faced, we're all aware of 2020 when we were in COVID. So that was definitely challenges that we had to overcome, but we got through it. And we're at the phase where we are planning the rollout of the Simba division next within this year. So it's a continuous project. And on this, in this timeline that's not included here as well is the change that happened between Henny being responsible for the expediting and Gugu. And this we'd like to Gugu to actually elaborate on how that transition was, given that this was an outsourced professional service that helped facilitate helped facilitate the change that happened internally at PepsiCo. So So the reliability of having a third party managing the information that her department was responsible for backed her up and giving her the confidence into stepping into her role as taking over from the expediters, because there was this central source of truth that was independent of whoever was involved at PepsiCo or yeah. So there was this central source of truth that she could fall back on and know that what is in the system is reflecting the reality.
Hello, I'm so sorry, my network just keeps on dropping, but it looks like I'm back right now. So, as you have mentioned, that John Paul, it was kind of a very difficult experience, and I think the most difficult thing is that I wasn't there when the project was starting, and as you said, it was now a third party being involved in this whole project. So I had to get to know my new company and still get to know the people that are going to be actually that are involved in this.
Love. Sorry.
Is Gugu still there, Jean-Pierre?
I don't know. Sorry, I'm
Hello?
just trying to see
Oh,
where.
okay. Do you want to continue?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
please continue.
I'm not sure what's going on right now with my network. It was stable this whole time and now it's just dropping. So as I said, it was just a little bit of a challenge getting to know everybody while at the same time you need to pick up a project and the project needs to start working and engaging with all these different transporters in different locations.
Have we lost Gugu, Jean-Pierre? I
No,
don't see her here. Oh,
I keep on going back. Actually, I'm not sure
sure.
what's going on.
No,
Like, I'm not
continue.
sure.
We can hear you. No problem.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. So it was a bit of a challenge, but I think also getting the guys at Forte that knew what was happening with the project, and then they understood what we needed as the company, and then they understood what was our goal in this whole project. It made it a little bit easier. So we tried to get everybody involved, although we had issues of transporters, others not having not being able to go into the platform, others didn't have data term and all of the stuff, but it was easier.
Gugu, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Sorry, you went mute there again. No problem. Continue.
So I was saying we trained all the transporters one by one and on how to use the platform and what we actually require from them. And it was actually it took time, but it eventually got there because right now we are getting the information that we currently need and we are closer to our goals actually. Hello? Oh.
Yes, we can hear you. Continue.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, yes. I was saying then we are close, and now we currently actually closer to our goal, and we're getting to where we want to be. As Jean-Paul said, we're now going to unroll our snack business into the same platform because we saw the value of us using this platform in our network.
Yeah, just to further then elaborate on some of the project milestones. So initially, the planning department was working on a Google Sheet, which moved over to a SharePoint. So again, that needed to be accounted for, and Flow needed to adapt to that. During the project, the primary transporters increased from a number of 35 to 55, which represented a 12% increase in the transporter pool. And then 45% of the transporters use the database-oriented software, and the rest were on Excel or manual methods. And then the predominant, or that 45% of transporters were predominantly using two or three. There were 2 or 3 various transport management systems that needed to be integrated. So the general results of the project were that PepsiCo didn't need to increase their staff complement as planned to 15 members, and they remained at 10 expediters within the expediting environment. And as Gugu said, they went from having to need or planning to have expediter at each dispatch location to being able to assign multiple dispatch locations to a single expediter. And the fact that there's continuity in when people go and leave and stuff like that, the handover of responsibility of expediting is a lot easier because there's a central method of working on the Flow platform. It's as easy as adding those different dispatch areas to your list of responsibilities that you look after, and because it's centrally available on the Flow platform, there's no need there's no need to explain or hand over phone numbers and stuff like that. If you can think of the old method of working, where expediter would have to have a list of transporters' phone numbers, and even in that, know exactly who the correct person is responsible for PepsiCo loads at that transporter. So because it's systematized, there's the one source that they can go to get expediting information, and then just focus on the information that's there. Okay. So one of the major service impacts that we made was that we improved the on-time delivery from 70% to 90% year on year. And then there was also a 5% cost reduction due to on-time delivery ratings improving, and the redeliveries and turnaround times improving. Yeah, so just the general results, the consolidation of the primary transport division within PepsiCo took place by providing them with a central web-based portal that they can log into, and then also providing the expediting team with this track and trace functionality, where they can actually focus their efforts, like I said earlier, on the things that are the exceptions and not the rule. So then they can really focus their efforts, and that speaks directly to the fact that they didn't need to increase their staff complement, because with the current people that they have, they are able to better service the current load or workload. Okay, so there's just again an overview of what the portal looks like, both on the BI side there on the left hand side, and then the grid itself. So there you can see as well, we provided PepsiCo with a breakdown of exactly who their top clients are by consignment count, and then also who are the top hauliers assigned to those different consignments by count of consignments. Okay, areas of next focus. Like we said earlier, it's going to be Simba for this year. The rollout of functionality and visibility to the rest of the sales departments nationally. So we're definitely looking at improving the data that we provide to the sales department, like we said, so that they also know the availability of the transporters to do additional loads when they enter into the next. So after they've done their planning cycle, when they enter the next planning cycle, which transporters are still busy with stuff and which ones are available to actually then do more consignments or do more work, so that it makes their planning a little bit easier. So in addition to that, we want to possibly in the future look at making this data available to PepsiCo's clients themselves as well, where they can see their consignments coming in. So we will be able to, without any cost to them as well, provide them with user logins where they can then see their consignments as well on the grid, and also have some BIs based upon that.
JP, we've got 5 minutes left, so we just got a stop at 4, and we still want some questions.
Perfect. So then we'll yeah, maybe someone has a question about what's next then. Perfect.
JP and Gugu, thank you so much for that
Leslie.
very insightful view of your entry for the ASCII Awards, and on your solution, which is really, really great. I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to open the floor. I think we've got 5 minutes left, and it's always great to get some input. What do you think was one of the biggest challenges in this project, and one of the biggest innovative solutions for that challenge that you could potentially share with the team?
Gugu, do you want to take it, or can I take it?
She's just dropped off again. She should be
Okay,
back.
no problem.
Sorry,
I don't mind answering.
Yeah.
JP, you want to maybe answer?
Yeah, from Forte's side, definitely the transport management, sorry, the change management at the transporters. Firstly, we were a third party that were approaching transporters on behalf of PepsiCo. So often that is a challenge in itself, in that you're a third party trying to work with transporters that are not your customers directly, but in a way they are our customers, because the success of the project definitely rested on them also having buy-in. And I think what helped was that it was a transporter-led initiative from our side in introducing us to PepsiCo, that helped in bridging that. And the fact that we were able to offer them options, and through a thorough study of the way that they operate, and with our knowledge of the way that transporters operate, we were able to offer them options to integrate into the flow system or the flow platform. So we weren't prescriptive, we were adaptive.
Oh, that's great. So it was an agile system that could handle, the challenges, etc.
Yes.
Fantastic. Any other questions from the floor? Right. JP and Gugu, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your insights with us. Just a reminder to everybody that the recording of the webinar will be circulated. And any questions that you may have that you want to share with us offline, please feel free to do that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please remember to enter your awards into your supply chain case study, and our awards dinner will be held on the 24th of July. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.